Actually, many students face the difficulty how to structure or frame an answer in GS history and in optional history. It's a problem for many aspirants. Many aspirants are confused how to write an answer to GS question, how to write an answer to history optional paper question. So have an idea. This will save you in your final exam. Okay, what I'm saying is that when we write answers in GS1, you know that history and culture comes in GS1 paper for your UPSC mains. Am I right? So when you write answers in GS1 and when you write answers in history optional, that is not the same way you are supposed to answer. But many aspirants don't know, especially students with the history optional don't know how to differentiate GS history answers and optional history answers. Okay, this understanding is very significant because if you write an answer the same way you do in GS paper in optional, then you cannot crack, you cannot score 250 plus or 300 plus in your optional. So simply understand what are those differences according to historians and toppers, according to experts and toppers. Please try to understand what is that difference between history answers in GS paper, history answers in optional paper. This is clear? Clear to everyone? Okay, coming to some few points by the experts and toppers. GS answers show what you know. This is something a remark by history optional topper. GS answers show what you know. That means simply, broadly, you just write whatever the question demands. Just write a decent, straightforward answer. No deeper analysis, no deeper dive into why factor. Nothing required. Just give a straightforward answer addressing the demand of the question. Enough. Okay, no more interpretations, no historians, interpretations, debates, nothing is required. But coming to optional answer, it shows how you think, how you interpret an event, how you interpret an issue, how you understand an issue like an expert or like a historian. Okay, much more a deeper analysis is required here. A deeper understanding is required. Or you must show the examiner you have a deeper understanding on that particular issue or that particular topic. Okay, then see, GS information gives you marks. A question asked about 1857 revolt, its causes and results. Simply write the causes and results or causes and consequences. You will fetch the marks. Okay, but in coming to this optional, you will have to go for its interpretations here. See, in optional, interpretations earn marks. When you say the causes, yes, you have to subdivide it into multiple dimensions. When you say the consequences into multiple dimensions, into multiple themes, you will have to go for different dimensional interpretations. Okay, much deeper understanding, deeper analysis that will fetch you marks in your optional history. This is the basic difference between this optional answer and GS answer. For example, just look into this one. I am showing you an example. Otherwise, you will be confused. See, GS history, it tests your general awareness. It tests your general awareness. You just need to know what happened. Enough. That much understanding. GS, just like its name shows, general understanding is required. General understanding is required. General awareness. It will test your general awareness. You just need to know what happened. But optional history, it tests analytical thinking. You must explain why it happened, how historians view it. You understood now? Anything, for example, character of 1857 revolt. When you say character of 1857 revolt, in few points, you can just define this character of 1857 revolt for GS answer. But coming to this history optional answer, obviously you have to analyze the character from different historians' perspectives. Okay, see, the revolt of 1857 was caused by military discontent and British policies. Then, as R.C. Majumdar calls it a Sepoy mutiny, Savarkar interprets it as a war of independence, showing differing historical lenses. See how this thing happened. Okay, see, coming to this one, the causes of revolt, military discontent and British policies. Okay, simply said the causes. British policies and the military discontent. But coming to optional, we say the same causes from historians' perspectives or historians' lenses. Okay, R.C. Majumdar, it's Sepoy mutiny. I mean, military causes are there. Savarkar interprets it's a war of independence. Okay, again, multiple dimensions added to that particular Savarkar point of view. So see, this is the same thing. It is presented in different ways. Coming to optional, a deeper analysis or a deeper interpretation has to be presented. Okay, now see, the Mauryan Empire declined due to weak successors, vast size, economic problem, foreign invasions. After Ashoka king could not maintain unity, local rulers became powerful. Again, see, the causes of decline of Mauryan Empire is shown here. What is shown here? The causes of the causes of decline of Mauryan Empire is shown here. See, no evidence is used, no scholar is used, no deeper analysis is used. Okay, but history optional, you see, the same answer coming to history optional. Decline of Mauryan Empire was multifactorial. R. Sharma attributes to an economic crisis caused by over centralization, fiscal strain. Romila Thapar points loss of imperial integration and rise of regional politics supported by archaeology at Takshila and Vidisha. Then reduction in long distance trade routes also weakened the economy. Thus, rather than a sudden fall, Mauryan disintegration was gradual regional reorientation. See, okay, here we have made lots of differences. We have to present the evidences. We have to present the historians. We have to present the different interpretations. Am I right? So much deeper way we analyzed the causes of the decline of the Mauryan Empire coming to optional. Now see what they say about the optional and GS answer. Depth of content. GS demands broad and brief answer. Broad and brief answer. Optional demands deep, detailed, multi-dimensional answer. Gupta's promoted art and literature. Optional, under Chandragupta's second, Sanskrit literature like Kalidasa's Abhijnana Shakuntalam flourished, while Ajanta painting shows refinement in Gupta art, a classical balance noted by A.L. Basham. See, both are talking about the Gupta art. Am I right? Both are talking about what? It is Gupta art. But you see, simply, GS answer goes like this: Gupta's promoted art and literature, simple. We'll list out some examples also. But coming to this optional, it goes through yes, it goes through, see, A.L. Basham or it is R.S. Sharma or Ubendra Singh, through different people, different interpretations, okay, or different perspectives we travel. Or we unravel these, concepts. Okay, so this is something the difference we have to take care. Optional means deeper. Yes, GS history means it is broader. Then see, historians' views not required in GS. It is not demanded in GS. Everywhere you are not supposed to bring in these different historians, perspectives or narratives in order to substantiate your arguments. Okay, give the solid examples enough. But coming to this, along with examples, you must require or you must bring in historians' views also. Okay. Romila Thapar interprets Ashoka's Dhamma as an ethical state policy, not a religious propaganda. Okay, in GS answer, you can simply say that Ashoka's Dhamma, it was, an ethical administrative policy. Okay, or it is not a religious tool, or it is not a religious sect, etc. But here, what is required is that we have to quote that historian in order to show the examiner that we have a proper understanding and a deeper knowledge about Ashoka's Dhamma. Okay, our knowledge has to be reflected here. So this is the way we frame answers in optional. Sources, just to mention the facts. Optional, support every point with the source, inscription, coins, test, archaeology. We know that when we frame answers in history optional, what is required is we have to mention the sources. In the introduction part, sometimes we require the sources. In the introduction part, sometimes we require the evidences. In the introduction part, sometimes we require historians' viewpoints. Okay, it will vary from answer to answer, question to question. But what is important? Yes, the evidences, sources, or these interpretations, or this historiography, etc., which is required throughout this answer. It is not listing out. It is clearly in order to distinguish, or in order to analyze, or in order to compare and contrast, or in order to describe any issues. We have to present evidences, examples, or the historian's views in history optional. That is not required in GS answers. Examiner's expectation in these GS and optional answers. See, according to toppers, GS wants clarity, neatness, and complete coverage of answer. Optional wants analysis, depth, and interpretation of sources and historians. You understood now? What your examiner expecting from your side? GS wants clarity of answer, neatness and complete coverage of this question parts. Maybe a question is having 2 parts, 3 parts, 4 parts, whatever. Complete coverage of this question parts, neatness, clarity, etc. Optional demands analysis, depth, interpretation of sources and historians. Okay, GS answer can get to 5 marks if it is clear and factual, and if it is completely addressing different parts of question. But optional needs reasoning and historiography to get to 5 out of 10. If both questions are 5, I mean 10 marks, they carry 10 marks for each. In order to get to 5 out of 10, GS answer demands your clarity, neatness, or what is called a complete coverage of these different parts of the question, etc. But here optional demands reasoning and historiography, or maybe you have to deeply analyze that particular issue by substantiating your points or your arguments with evidences, examples, and historiography. You understood now? So that is the basic differences everyone has to take care. Just I will show you. There is a question. Look into this question. There is a question. What is the question? How far is it correct to say that Indians of the ancient era indulged only in metaphysical things, not in the development of pure science? There is a question. It is to confuse you. Yes, you cannot say that ancient Indians were bloody fools and they are only engaged in this moksha, nirvana, and in these unscientific things. Not like that. You have to balance. Am I right? You have to balance. I mean, yeah, we were into spiritual inquiry. We were into metaphysical things. Our Upanishads, Vedanta, or we have lots of such, works done. But our metaphysical inquiries were not unscientific. Is it unscientific? No, in the science field also we have done lots of things. Calculation of the computation of the value of pi, or this what is called a gravity force, or the solar lunar eclipses. Okay, or this decimal system, astronomy, astrology, mathematics, physics, or Ayurveda medicine. Lots of scientific inquiries we have already done. So the statement is, how far is it correct to say that Indians of the ancient period indulged only in metaphysical things and not in the development of pure sciences? If this question is asked, see, there they are asking how far. What is that? How far is it correct to say? How far means obviously you should say how much it is right to say that Indians engaged in these metaphysical things, not in the development of pure sciences. Also, you should say that how far this statement is wrong. How far this statement is wrong. So it goes like this. This is not a factual question. This is not a factual question. This is not a narrative question. It is analytical question. You have to analyze how far it is correct, how far it is correct, how far it is not correct. So it is analytical and evaluative question. How far is it correct means you must acknowledge the partial truth of this particular statement. What is the partial truth? Indian thought was indeed deeply philosophical, metaphysical. Ancient Indian thoughts were deeply metaphysical, philosophical, rather than scientific. Okay, so you have to say, partially you have to say how far Indian thought were metaphysical or it is philosophical. At the same time, you have to refute the exaggeration. What is the exaggeration here? What is the exaggeration here? Indians ignored the scientific development. Indians ignored, maybe it is a colonial view. Indians ignored the scientific development. That is not a reality. That is something an exaggeration. So you have to negate this exaggeration that Indians ignore the scientific development. So you have to address both the side. What extent Indians were engaged in this deeper into this metaphysical thinking or philosophical thinking and thought, etc. Same way, we have to say that even though they were engaged in philosophical, metaphysical inquiries, they were not unscientific. They were not unscientific. Such were not illogical. We have scientific discoveries also. So examine the balance between metaphysical and empirical pursuits in ancient India. Okay, how Indians engaged in metaphysical, philosophical thinking along with these scientific inquiries. Okay, we have to analyze this. We have to critically analyze this statement. So if I go for this, yes, I will begin with a direct, balanced introduction. Even you can use Romila Thapar, A.L. Basham, or different Chattopadhyaya, different historians for an opening. Don't waste 3-line defines terms. Directly address the question. Show your understand the demand, analytical, descriptive, critical. For example, See, I am going like this. There is no need for this unwanted, exaggerated introductions, etc. Simply, while metaphysical speculation was prominent in ancient India, it coexisted with a vibrant tradition of empirical science as seen in mathematics, astronomy, medicine. So it will give a total crux of what I am going to discuss in the body. Okay, if I am giving this kind of an introduction, examiner will get an idea. Yes, I understood the demand of the question. I understood the demand of the question. While metaphysical speculation was prominent in ancient India, it coexisted with a vibrant tradition of empirical science as seen in mathematics, astronomy, medicine. Yes, ancient India or early Indians, they have made tremendous discoveries, innovations in the field of science, medicine, astronomy, astrology. Am I right? So this kind of a sentence, this would be a proper introduction for me. Even I can quote Romila Thapar who says about early Indians, the scientific pursuits, or Chattopadhyay who say about ancient Indians scientific pursuits, or this what is El Basham whose statements on these Indian scientific enquiries in early times. Okay, that way also you can start this. Then you must acknowledge the partial truth. Indians discussed profound metaphysical questions. What is the nature of the soul? Atman, Brahman. What is the purpose of life? Yes, they were engaged in philosophy. They were engaged into metaphysics. Yes, Vedanta, Samkhya, Mimamsa. They all explored the abstract ideas of these early Indians. At the same time, it is refuting the exaggeration that yes, early Indians or ancient Indians, they didn't do any scientific discoveries. Okay, how I refute this? India's intellect was not confined to spiritual speculation. Rational spirit produced scientific knowledge. For example, Aryabhata's heliocentric theory, okay, empirical astronomy, Charaka and Sushruta Samhitas, see evidence-based medicine and surgery. Shalba Sutras, you see geometric precision similar to Pythagorean theorem. Canada's Vaisheshika Sutrada, which is atomic theory anticipating modern physics. So there are lots of intellectual thoughts, intellectual thinking of early Indians, ancient Indians, not just only limited into the spiritual speculations or metaphysical thinking. In fact, they were more scientific and they were more, yeah, like rational or scientific thinking or leading to some scientific discoveries. That way, you have to go for this answer. Show both are interconnected. Indian thought is so no rigid divide between metaphysics and science. That way you can conclude this answer also. Okay, what legacy we followed. Then next important thing is that yes, in history optional there are lots of jargons you are supposed to use. Jargons is nothing but there are some very keywords which you are how to bring into your answer, which will fetch you good marks in your optional. Okay, don't write the everybody using common words. Don't write it every time. Okay, for example, people say basically. Instead of that, you can use fundamentally, essentially. Okay, some keywords that will impress the examiner. Coming to history optional for archaeology and sources, some keywords which you can bring into your answer part: material culture, stratigraphic evidences, assemblage, epigraphic data, numismatic record. Okay, instead of writing inscriptional sources or instead of writing these coins, studies, etc., you can use numismatic record, textual corroboration, typology, that is study of different criterias, different types, ceramic sequences, radiocarbon chronology. This kind of the keywords you can use in your answers. Harappan urban form revealed by stratigraphic and ceramic evidences reflect a planned civic ethos rather than spontaneous growth. Okay, so bring some change for which you must have very popular keywords for archaeology evidences and sources, for Indus civilization, for the religion and culture of ancient times, for economy of ancient times, for society of ancient time, for these social divisions of ancient times, or for this what is called educational developments of ancient time. For everything, you set a template, the essential keywords for each theme of ancient, medieval, modern times that can be used in your answer, history optional answer. See, for state and polity, centralized bureaucracy. There is a term called centralized bureaucracy. Segmentary state. For example, the central administration divided into segments. I mean, the regional powers, they are autonomous, even though central power is there. Regional powers are autonomous, and central power is kind of a ritual power. Okay. Yes, ritual sovereignty, ideological kingship, ritual legitimation, intermediate polity, military fiscal structure, temple centered administration. See, these are some essential jargons or these keywords we use in state and polity of ancient India. Religion, philosophy, culture, syncretism, acculturation. Okay, that is syncretism is, that is blending of different religion, religious ideas, values, etc. Okay, acculturation is, one culture's contact with the other culture, developing new, cultural values, etc. Okay, or it's a assimilation into new culture. Popular religiosity, sectarian pluralism, ritual democratization, bhakti Sufi synthesis, philosophical elitism. So these are some kind of jargons we use in religion, philosophy, culture related answers. So what I am saying is that always try to understand how to answer in GS, how to answer in optional, what kind of the keywords, what kind of the essential components you have to bring into history optional answers. This idea has to be very critical, very clear, so that you can fetch good marks in not only in optional but in GS also. You understood this now, all of you? Okay.
Gallant IAS, chasing your passion to ace.